Hi there, VC. It's Steve Whitty here. It's Sunday morning. Hope everybody is well. It's time for another video. Bit like the previous two videos I've done. It's a recent listens video. I hope everyone is well. The sun is shining. Yeah, I think we've had a hit of a bit of an Indian summer in the UK, even though we are. Where I'm from, Birmingham, we've seen a bit of spike in COVID at the moment, and from Tuesday we're not to mingle around other people's houses. I gather, and though I can go to work, go into the office to work, and I've been returning 1 day a week in the office the last few weeks. But yes, it is what it is. At least I've got music to keep me sane after I've finished work. So let's start with this again. It's just going to be 10 records. So first up, it's Carly Simon's Anticipation album, released in 1971. This is on the Elektra label. This is before, obviously, You're So Vain became really popular and broke her. Typical singer-songwriter fare of the early 70s. It is a good album. Not outstanding, but it is a good album. I think the title track, Anticipation, and the final track, I've Got to Have You, are the standout tracks on this album. I think it must be around this time that Carly Simon got married to James Taylor. I'm just trying to think if he's on there at all. No, doesn't appear to make an appearance on the album, but it's not a bad album at all. Really, really good. Really good album. Next two albums are upgrades. Both Simple Minds album. This is Sister Feelings Call. This came out in 1981. Not quite sure if it's the first album for Virgin or not. Standout tracks here are The American, 20th Century, Promised Land, League of Nations. It's a good album. I think that at this point they're trying to find a voice for themselves. It's certainly the early Simple Minds albums. They certainly have pretensions of art rock in them, new wave art, and back the album. And I feel that yes, this is a good album, well worth seeking out. And the other upgrade for Simple Minds, this is Life in a Day. This is their debut album, but this is the 1982 Virgin reissue. I think this came. It's around this time that Promised You a Miracle became their first big hit. There we go. And they decided to reissue the debut album. I think it originally came out on Zoom or something like that. There's the band at that point. Very new wave-ish. The title track, Stand Out, Life in the Day, Stand Out, Chelsea Girls, another great track on here. Yeah, I think it would probably be, you would probably sort of classic new wave, maybe a little bit art rocky. It definitely was shifting away to punk. Like punk got everybody up playing guitar, but I think that they were too big for punk. And you've got a stunning album cover as well, with the sort of like, I don't know where it was taken from, but got the lot like the red pools. Really, a really good album, worth seeking out. Next album, this is Susie and the Banshees Nocturne. This is their double live album, recorded at the Royal Albert Hall on the 30th of September and the 1st of October 1983. The band were on a commercial high at that point. Dear Prudence, which is on the album, had just given them their biggest hit single. Line-up at that time, you've got Robert Smith. He was playing guitar. He was splitting duties between Susie and the Banshees and The Cure. You've got here Israel. You've got a mixture of the singles and some of the album tracks. So you've got opens with Israel. You've got then goes into Dear Prudence, then Paradise Place, Melt, and side B, Cascade, Pulled to Bits, Night Shift, Sin in My Heart, side 3, Slow Dive, Painted Bird, Happy House, Switch, side D, Spellbound, Helter Skelter, which is an absolutely wonderful version of it, Eve White's, it's / Eve Black, and then Voodoo Dolly. Absolutely wonderful band. As you say, you've got the band that are actually out there riding that peak, and you think 1983, when they first formed, 77, they played the gig at the 100, the gig at the 100 Club. They could hardly play a note, and doing versions of Lord Prayer, and despite all the knockbacks, band members walking out of either tour, to get to the Royal Albert Hall, which is very prestigious, and in fact, at this point, it was could be quite rare because they were a bit sniffy about rock bands playing there. They'd done a ban in the late 60s, early 70s. Just really highlighting the performance on this album is absolutely wonderful. The playing's great. It's just absolutely wonderful live album, double live album. Definitely worth checking out if you have not listened to it. Somewhat totally different. This is Cat Stevens' Numbers. This came out in 74 or 75. I think it might have been 75. And this, yes, 75. This was a sort of attempt to make I wouldn't say concept album, but it was to make a album with a story. In the packing, you get a little booklet. And it's basically telling the story of the planet called Polygore, where Polygore existed to give numbers to the universe. And you get an outline of what's going on. You need to get the characters. And I think the plan was to make an animated series or do with a book about it. Unfortunately, nobody really who listened to the album got the concept. It didn't. The critical reception, it didn't go down very well. It didn't chart in the UK, and I think it charted very low in the US. US were quite dumbfounded by it as well, and the songs didn't really go down well live. The problem with concept albums is they work when you can follow the thread. You can't follow the thread. In my opinion, they just go all over the place. Songs in themselves aren't bad, but then when you say, well, it's a concept, then it's something like you're expecting something to sort of stick out and grab you, and it just doesn't. It's a very Muggle sounding album. I believe the American record label A&M sort of gave Cat Stevens a bit of an ultimatum, saying your next album ain't going to be anything like this. You've got to have some hits on this, otherwise you're out. And I think it is known at this point Cat Stevens was, I wouldn't say troubled mind, but he was looking for guidance and a bit spiritual or what, and he eventually obviously found Islam and converted to Islam and sort of quit the music scene business for about a good 20 years. So yeah, it's worth giving a listen to, but I'm not sure I would recommend actually buying it. Next album, this is Traffic. This is When the Eagle Flies from 74, and this is the band's last album before the initial split. At this point, Steve Winwood was he was health suffering a little bit, and I think when they finished the tour, he just, in a sense, went to bed for a couple of hours. He just needed a total break. Not a bad album. It's not up there with the best. Most of the tracks are Winwood Capaldi songs, apart from Dream Gerard, which is Winwood and Vivian Stanshall. And as I say, it's not a bad album. It's not up there with the great, but there's some good tracks on here. Walking in the Wind, Memories of a Rock and Roller, the title track, really good album. As I said, there's Traffic Split. Steve Winwood would go on to have his solo career. Jim Capaldi had a moderately successful solo career. Chris Wood, unfortunately, I think sort of lost the thread that held him together a little bit, and unfortunately he passed away in 1983. In my last video, I talked about prog revival in the 80s, and I mentioned Palace, and I showed one of their albums. Another band that was associated at this time was 12th Night. This is the Art and Illusion mini album that came out on Music for Nations in 1984. It's not a bad album. It just wouldn't make me want to go out and get anything else. It's prog with a hint of 80s influence in it. I think, and as I say, it's the first time I've really sat down and listened to them, and I'm not really quite sure whether I would be going out and looking for any more of their albums, to be honest with you. But if I come across one, I suppose, in a while and at a good price, I'd pick it up. But it just left me a little bit cold. James Griffiths was showing off his 12 favourite psych songs, and I think that's the thread that's come along. And he mentioned The Nice, and I've been actually about a couple of weeks prior to that. I've been listening to this album again. This is the debut album by The Nice, The Thoughts of Emilist Davjak, which is an album out there, the band's name. This is an American copy of the album, which is a Columbia special product, so this is a reissue. So we got on the album The Thoughts of Emilist Davjak, the title track, which is very much pop psych. Quite a lot of this I would class as pop psych. I think really the interpretation of Dave Brubeck's Blue Rondo a la Turk, what they call Rondo, which is credited to Emilist Davjak, is probably the hint of what the direction the band were going to go into. This is the only album I believe that features Davey List on guitar, and I think that's what makes it a bit more pop psych than anything than prog. It's a good album. It's a good starting point. I think every band has a starting point, but there's the band at the back there. Yes, it's worth checking out if you've not listened to it. It's a good album. Guy I don't really see much in the wild of is Tom Petty. This is his debut album, Tom Petty Heartbreakers, from '76 on the Shelter label through Island Records. Sort of a good, there's the band there, good classic opening album. It's obviously got American Girl close to the album, breakdowns on here, anything that's rock and roll, they're the best known tracks on here. Just love all those clashes at the back, some mean facial hair on there. Yeah, a good album. It's to say, it's difficult to find Tom Petty stuff in the wild. It was before he passed away. Now it's I think it's rare and rocking horse dropping. So to get that at a decent price, I was very pleased with. Right, I've just got one more album to show you. Now I might have mentioned that some was brought, some was played, some was re-listened to, and some was given. This album was given to me. Pete at the shop. He recently bought himself one of these machines. You can press warped records down, and it's supposed to try and bring it down. It didn't work in this case, so he says you might as well have it. This is quite a decent album, and this is called Nottingham Castle Rock. This came out, I think, in 1970. I think it's 1971 or 72, and this is a sort of feature of bands from Nottingham at that time. A very limited edition, and my copy is number 570. Obviously, got Nottingham there. You got Robin Hood, and it played all right on mine. It is a warp, and it does affect the first couple of minutes off the track one, which isn't too. I'm going to quibble about that because the track's 9 minutes long. So the band you've got on here, you've got Odysseus with their track Iguana, which is very prog. You can get that. Autumn Design, the track's Loving. Centuris with the track called Road to Damascus, featuring John Lord on organ, not that John Lord. Apparently the average age of the group was 16 years old at the time. Dave Rossiter and Friends, Don't Rock the Boat, singer-songwriter. On side 2, you've got band Moonlight Driver, the song Changes. Cisco with the song This Heavy Load. Down to Earth with Money Woman. Autumn Design again with their eponymous track Autumn Design. Gaffer playing Love. And then finally Satan's Vomit. And we've all wanted to listen to a bit of Satan's Vomit. Streaking Through the Tulips. It's sort of like it's a wind up. It's basically sort of like a 30s pastiche. This is really a bit of history more than anything. You know, you've got bands from Nottingham. Obviously, from the band's name, none of them came to anything. This sort of had a bit of a tie in. The sleeve lights are done by a guy called Ashley Franklin, who must have been a DJ at Radio Nottingham. This is just absolutely wonderful. These are the sort of things that are worth picking out. I mean, a good copy of this is worth it. It's pushing on 3 figures. But as I said, apart from the opening bit on the first track, the rest of the album plays sweet. Absolute wonderful album. It's definitely worth. If you can ever come across it and you've got the money, it's definitely worth checking out. There you go, VC. So that's my records I've been listening to this week. Well, not this week, past few weeks. I'm slowly catching up, slowly watching more. The trouble is, football season's come back on now, so it's a mixture of music and football. As I say, I'm going to go outside and enjoy a bit of the weather. Why not? But whatever you get up to, VC, make sure you have a good one. If you come across my channel first time, you like what you see, click on the subscribe button. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Love the interaction. And feel free to leave a comment. I do tend to get back to you. And I'm grateful for those. It's a small channel, but I seem to have a loyal following, so that's great. And I do appreciate it. So, wherever you get to, make sure it's a good one. So, until the next time, VC, keep spinning, take care of yourselves, and more importantly, keep on smiling.